you for inviting us here today. My name is Aydonat. I'm the CEO of ScutiX. Well, what's the problem that we're trying to solve in ScutiX? Actually, we're trying to solve the problem of the future. What's the problem of the future? It's the problem of our fourth industrial revolution technologies. What are these technologies? There are so many technologies right now coming, and also there's a big demand for the computing power. We are just using blockchain technologies. Everybody knows about the mining problems and everything. There are big data projects, big analytics. AI is just starting to bloom. But the main problem over here is electricity. Electricity to power up all these projects. And with the lack of this electricity, everybody is just chasing for the cheapest electricity in the world. 1 year in China, the other year in Iceland. But this is not a permanent solution. What's the permanent solution? The permanent solution is having your own electricity power, having your own computing power, and building up your business model out of it. And what are we doing with this ScutiX? We are trying to do this as a solution. We are just creating 120 megawatts of our own solar energy farms with the 60,000 units of computing powers. And these all will be used for renting and also for mining. We will be just doing 6 ScutiX farms, and every ScutiX farm will have 20 megawatts of solar energy farms with the 10,000 units of computing powers. After all these mining operations and the other things, we will still in the end have electricity to sell to the grid. So we will be locating our first 2 ScutiX farms, one in Australia, the other one will be in Canada. All of the other locations will be all over the world with the help of our managing founder, Bushoff. So I just want to mention about Bushoff. Who is Bushoff? Bushoff is one of the biggest renewable energy producers in the world. They are a German company. They are the biggest in Australia. They have huge projects in US, Canada, and also in Germany. Bushoff and Tesla are right now working on the biggest battery pack project in the world. So ScutiX has got a great team. Let me mention you some more about our team. I'm the CEO. I just started my journey from 2000. I'm just coming from a .com business industry. I just built up an auction site in Turkey, which was just servicing all the countries next to Turkey. We just run that company for 11 years with my partners, and in 2011 we just sold our company to eBay over $200 million. And the rest, one of the founders, Henry Okereke, is one of the most respected bankers in the world. We have a German engineering and software developing team. They are all located in Germany, just outside of the Frankfurt. So the German engineering is backing up whatever we do. So we have a great team over here, a great advisors team. They have a great knowledge of renewable energy infrastructure businesses. So what about the benefits for the investors then? Of course, we're just trying to create a stable investment environment. Our token will be an asset-backed security token, and we're just targeting a 2-digit dividend returns. And also we have a clear exit strategy through the IPO. Right now, Bushoff is running a $600 million of IPO in Australia for their Australian company. So the team, the founders, everybody knows what they are doing in this project. We will have a great infrastructure of a renewable energy solution for the fourth industrial revolution coming up right now. If you have any questions, please just come out. We are all just on the table, and we are always online on our social platforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. One from the hometown, Cheerhub. Is Maarten in the audience? Perfect. So Maarten, your next Cheerhub is a sports ICO, well, the sports project. Maarten,
He's never ever stood on the top step of the podium here in the Red Bull Ring, and for that matter, neither of his team, but for the team and for the man, their moment has come now. Max Verstappen wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Ferrari with Kimi Räikkönen ahead of Sebastian Vettel make up the other two podium places. For good measure, Räikkönen put the fastest lap of the race in on their very fast lap, and it's a new lap record as well.
Stop, Max. Stop, Max. That was textbook.
Yes!
Oh, this feels good. Oh, yes!
Okay, thank you all for having me. Maybe I'll lose this helmet for a second because it's not really convenient. Skip to the next slide. This helmet is not for nothing. You may see it as a joke, but it's not. It's actually related to last weekend. What a weekend it was for all the Dutchies among us, where Max Verstappen drove brilliantly and made a big story for the world, but also for our Dutchies. This helmet is from Tom Cornell. Thanks, Tom, by the way. But this helmet last weekend had a special meaning because Max was wearing a yellow helmet for the first time. And his yellow helmet was a special thanks to his early stage sponsor, Jumbo Supermarkets. And that's why I want to continue. Because Max is a brilliant talent who could fund it early stage, was quite lucky and of course to develop his talent. But we also have this brilliant star in the Netherlands. She's Irene Wust. She's all-time best Olympian of the Netherlands. And unfortunately, she probably cannot continue her career anymore, but she cannot find any sponsors. So that's quite a bit of contrast at this moment that's happening in the sports industry, where athletes, our biggest athletes, actually cannot continue their dreams to follow an Olympic dream, because they just cannot find a sponsor. This was, I think, 4 weeks ago, which was in the news. This was 2 weeks in the news. Koen Verwij. He's a speed skater, Olympic medalist, and Koen Verwij has to quit. He is actually quitting for a year because no funding, no sponsors. There are actually in the sports industry two really big problems. There's a financial gap and there's a communication gap. The financial gap is just shown with actually the athletes who cannot fund their career. There's a communication gap. Communication gap already exists. Federations, clubs, teams, players and fans has a really hard time to really approach actually the sports fans and create that fan engagement online. I think it needs to load for a second. It's probably coming up. Oh no, one back. Yep. No. It's the previous slide. Oh, will come up. In the meanwhile, I'll start to explain what Cheerhub is. Cheerhub, we actually bridge two gaps: the financial gap and the communication gap. We built a messaging platform like Slack did for the business industry, and like Discord did for the gaming industry, and Twitch. We build a messaging platform where we get all the amateur sports content actually in and build a community. And on the other side, we bridge the financial gap by creating the Cheer token. The Cheer token, that is actually going to function as a native currency within the social community. Actually, the sports athletes, they need funding, and we have on the other side, there it is, fans who want brilliant content. So on the left side, we have fans who want content. On the right side, we have talent who need funding. We're bringing these two parties together by bridging the financial gap to the right, like I just said, and the communication gap to the left. These guys, they tell the great stories. These guys, they have the funding from the community to get our athletes to the Olympics and inspire us as fans, but also has nations around the world. So how is this cheer token going to be used within the platform? We're actually lowering the barrier for people to fund careers. So people can donate actually the athletes for their content being contributed to the platform, and they can subscribe to channels, but they can even invest within the integrated sports exchange within the platform in tokens of athletes. We're doing actually kind of mini ICOs for athletes where they can pre-fund their career and that way develop their talent as they want to do. And as fans, you can be scouts and early stage, try to scout your talent and see how he develops, and in the meanwhile get all the amazing content from that athlete where he builds his trust with, because he promotes himself positively at our platform. At the moment, we're doing an ICO, we're in a private pre-sale. My name is Maarten Bushoff. I want to thank you all for having us, and please come and visit us at our booth, and we're happy to elaborate on this concept and to tell you our other plans and dreams. And let's try to fund all the athletes around the world so they can get us inspired for now and for the future. Thanks.
Dankjewel. Mag ik de klikker terug? Dankjewel. All right, so let's go to the second keynote of the day. Is Theron in the audience? It's me, right? There he is. Theron is from a company called Alchemy. It's one of the most, one of the premier blockchain development companies in the world, based in Seattle. I'm very happy that you're here to talk to us about marketing for different token classes.
Excellent, thank you, Nils. So yes, I'm Theron. I'm the head of client marketing for New Alchemy. We're a full-service blockchain cryptocurrency ICO firm based in Seattle, like Nils said. We started out in 2016 doing smart contracts and security audits for people. Our founder, Peter Vestnes, thought that sounded like an interesting business to be in, so we started there. And we've grown since then to do, like I said, full service. So white papers, token mechanics, we do engineering, obviously we do full service marketing, and we're continuing to branch out into other areas as well, including a foray into the broker-dealer world. And there's tons of other things going on. If you want to come by our table a little bit later, we can talk about some of the other services we offer and ways we can help. So I'm going to talk today about 4 categories of tokens and how to market in the age of the SEC. That's probably important. Wow. Not sure what happened there, but this basically says, massive disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, and I for sure am not your lawyer, so anything I say in this presentation is my opinion. And this is kind of the New Alchemy take on things. If you don't have a securities lawyer, you don't have a lawyer for a project, please get one. It's pretty important. There's a lot of murky issues to navigate. And I'm talking specifically about the US and the SEC and stuff like that. These general concepts do apply to other countries. I'm not as familiar with them, so if I'm not a lawyer in the US, I'm really not a lawyer anywhere else. So just wanted to pass that along. That said, let's talk about what an ICO used to mean. So in 2017 or earlier, ICOs meant a way to raise funding. I mean, you put your project together, you put it out to the public, they subscribed, you ran your ICO, people gave you funds, they gave you ETH, and you were done. You had funds to go forward and do whatever you wanted to do with. You could build your project, you could kind of roll forward. If I were to borrow a page from Michael Turpin's presentation a little bit earlier, I would probably also put a date on this slide, or have a slide with a date on it, which is December 11th, 2017. Does that date sound familiar to anyone? Kind of 2 things happened on that date. One, the SEC, Jay woke up and issued a big old statement that generated a lot of FUD and made the SEC's position perfectly unclear on the matter, although they did manage to say things like, hey, utility tokens seem to have many of the hallmarks of securities, so they might be securities, but it was pretty vague. But the other thing that they did on December 11th, which is probably a little more germane to this, is they actually stepped in and shut down an ICO of a company called Munchie. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Munchie, but Munchie was a food service delivery project, and they had done fairly well. They raised about $15 million in funding. On December 11th, the SEC said, No. You guys are security. You're security because, and I don't have the actual quote memorized, but they said something along the lines of, you're raising funds to go forward and build a profitable enterprise. So that was kind of leg number one of the SEC's argument. The other one was that Munchie had pretty actively gone out and said, hey, buy our tokens, they will appreciate value, and you will make a bunch of money on this deal. And they said it in a variety of places. They said it on their website, they said it in blog posts. They were pretty vocal about this because, to be fair, that's what we did. We raised money, and people bought into ICOs, probably thinking they were going to make some money on the back end. So, but on that date, the SEC said, no, you've got to give the 15 million you've raised back, and they did, and that was it. No harm, no foul, no jail time for anyone, no other consequences. But that date did serve to kind of shake the industry up quite a bit. And I know in our offices we were like, ooh, this is kind of a big deal. And I should say, unlike Munchie, Nostrum here has a profitable enterprise. You know, so when we saw Percy talk earlier about his business, he's got a profitable enterprise. And that's an important distinction here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So now we at New Alchemy look at tokens and we say, or we like to categorize or believe that they sit in 4 different buckets. One is the utility token. This is your product's fully built. You've got network effect. People can use your tokens right away. You know, you're not building a profitable enterprise. You know, you've already got something they can use with it. Our director of operations, JC, uses a great example for this that I'm going to steal literally. He talks about the example of a subway. And so in this case, your utility token, if you have a subway, your utility token is nothing more or less than the ticket to ride your subway. It doesn't grant you ownership in the subway. It just, you give them a token, you get to go for a ride, right? Easy enough. So, but we'll talk a lot more about that here in a second. Type 2, so this is the second category. And if Munchie came to us today, we would say they probably belong in this category because Type 2 is what is been called a SAFT, a simple agreement for future tokens, or a purchase agreement. Our broker-dealer partner, our attorney likes to refer to it as a purchase agreement. A little bit more, but SAFT is kind of the usual term. And basically what you're doing here is you need to raise funding because you're going to build your subway. So your subway doesn't exist. You're going out to people and saying, hey, give me money. I will build a really cool subway. And once it's built, I'll give you tokens to ride that subway. So you're generating utility tokens as the outcome of this, and there's still no ownership involved. So you're not selling ownership in the subway. You're just selling the future ability to ride on the subway. But what we learned on December 11th is the SEC likes to look at these and say, yep, that's a security. So what that means is it has to be marketed to accredited investors by a broker-dealer, someone licensed to actually market it. And we'll talk more about that in a second too. The third type of client that we're working with right now, we refer to as a dual token. And because there's 2 tokens involved, hey, imagine that. One is the utility token, so now you're going to build a product, and you're going to generate utility tokens, but first, you need to raise the money to do that. The way that clients in this category are doing that is they are actually issuing a security, either an ownership stake in the company, they're tokenizing an asset, they're giving you equity down the road, profit sharing, but they're doing some form of security, a financial instrument, which is then followed after their product's built by utility token issuance. And that can come in a number of different ways. They can run an ICO at that point because they have a product with utility and they can sell tokens, or they can just give them away to investors, or they can do whatever they want with them. It doesn't really matter at that point, but they will have a utility token. The fourth type is really a pure security, and this is tokenizing an asset like gold or real estate, providing equity in your company. You have no intent down the road of building a product that would need utility or need tokens to access it. You're just doing security. That's perfectly acceptable as well. So let's talk about the utility token for a minute. What does it mean? What do you need to have a utility token? Well, in the subway example, it's not good enough just to have some cars and some track sitting outside and you decide to sell. In order to have a full utility token, you have to have a few more things. You can have your car and your track, but what you really need to do is generate the network effect. You need to have a usable, viable product. So what's a viable product using this example? Well, if if you have cars and you have a track, and you have 2 stops, that's not really utility. That's a pretty crappy subway. You can go from point A to point B and back. It's probably not really going to qualify as being useful. You need to have a full network. You need to have multiple stops. At those stops, you probably need to have baristas, places to buy newspapers and gifts, a place for Nils to get a couple beers probably on his ride. And it needs to be useful. It needs to go somewhere. You probably need multiple lines. You need to have a fully built out product, in other words. Once you do that, you have your infrastructure, you have your cars, your track, and you also have the network effect of having a viable, usable product that people can ride. And you can sell utility tokens there. It's not really a funding event. You're selling access to a product or network that you own. So this really doesn't qualify as security as far as we know. Again, I'm not an attorney, but this is the way we're looking at it. Second type is the SAFT, or purchase agreement. It leads to a funding event ultimately, but you don't have your train, you don't have your track, you don't have your stops, you don't have any of the shops and the stops. You need to generate funding, and like I said, the SEC looks at these and says, hey, that's a security because you're selling something in the future, whatever the rest of their argument is behind that. So as a result, we're marketing these only to accredited investors. The value is again, the future utility token. There's no ownership in the subway, there's no ownership in any of the shops, it's just down the road when this is done, you have a utility token offering after everything's built, and your investors get utility tokens to ride the subway. But again, once they use those, their value is gone, and they need to buy more tokens just like anyone else. Our third type, the dual token offering, is very similar. It's an alternate path to type 1 or utility tokens. You need funding. This is also a security, so you market to accredited investors only. The value is some form of security. You have a token that represents ownership in this enterprise, one way, shape, or form, whether it's actual equity or potential revenue distributions down the road. And tokens may be traded with other accredited investors here, we believe. So at the end, again, you have your utility token offering. You built everything, you have the owners behind it, and then you can either do an ICO or you can just hand out tokens or sell them on your website or whatever you want to do. But you have tokens that serve as access point to your subway. Fourth type is a pure security token. This does not lead to utility tokens from our experience. This is just, you need funding for your business. You're marketing to accredited investors only, as it is security. And investors own some form of token that represents ownership. Real estate is a pretty good example of this. Energy, there's a variety of things, tokenized assets, gold, etc. Okay, so what the heck do we do? Borrowed a page from Douglas Adams for this, the cover of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't panic. Type 1, so like I said, this is very similar to what we were doing last year and earlier with ICOs. You can market these pretty much the way you would market any ICO that you've done in the past. Traditional ICO marketing applies. I love typing that up. What the heck is traditional ICO marketing? This business changes every 10 minutes. But my point is, this is very similar. You can do your community management, you can do traditional paid media, which by the way, it's interesting to see Facebook reverse their position on crypto marketing the other day. They still say, oh, you can't market token sale events, but you can now market blockchain. I think they're starting to think, we might need to participate in this. It'd be interesting to see how long it takes Google to catch on to that. I think they're probably only a couple weeks behind. One of the key things, though, that we talk about here is when you're doing this form of marketing, watch your messaging. Don't state or imply that increased value is going to result, that you're going to appreciate, that you're going to have exchanges all over the world. Because I think the other thing that Munchy was pumping was, hey, we're going to be on a bunch of exchanges. It's like big target, shoot us, shoot us. But so, again, watching your messaging is really important here, but provided you're marketing this, this is not an investment, it shouldn't be marketed as such. We feel comfortable. We feel like there's a lot of opportunity to do this. If you have a fully built out business, putting on blockchain, hey, I think this is a perfect good path for you. Okay, so what about 2, 3, and 4? That's where it gets tricky, right? Okay, well, like I said, these are all securities in the eyes of the SEC at this point. As far as we know, and I think Michael also made a really good point. The SEC is being deliberately vague and obtuse about this. We had a good speaker in Malta, Gordon Einstein, who talked about this a little bit. They're being deliberately obtuse. They don't know. They want to change their stories. They say things like, well, that could be a security. It may be. He gives some great examples. If you don't know Gordon, I would look him up on LinkedIn. He will send you the presentation that he gave in Malta, and it was pretty eye-opening. Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is securities and investment opportunities can only be marketed by licensed broker-dealers or the issuer of the security. So if it's your business, you can stand up here and talk to investors all day long. I can't market it for you. It's the way the SEC works. Third parties, marketing or consulting agencies cannot directly market investment opportunities or introduce investors to the issuers of a security if we're receiving some form of payment for that. Wait, we're not supposed to panic, right? Well, so what can we do? So at this point, this really starts to look like more a traditional marketing exercise than anything else. Market the project, not the investment opportunity. I mean, I can sit here and talk about your cool project all day long. I can talk about the comfortable, quiet ride of the subway, selling the features of the subway. I can talk about the fact that you have the best conductors, the best engineers, the best team, the best baristas in your stops. I'm marketing your team, right? I can do that. I can describe why blockchain technology is important to your project, which I think is key to just about anyone. I think we've all seen projects out there that really look kind of sketchy in terms of the need for blockchain. Someone just went, hey, if I put this blockchain thing in there, I'm going to raise $100 million. Yeah, don't do that. And then describe why your subway is unique. Market the differentiators. Hey, this is the only way you can get to a certain stop. We are the only subway that has Costa coffee stations instead of crappy Starbucks, which, by the way, Starbucks is crap. Different story. We can also link and redirect investment opportunities to your broker-dealer, and this is something that we at New Alchemy do. We have a partnership with a company in Houston called eToro. They're serving as our broker-dealer partner at the moment, and we're continuing to expand in that area because also, as Michael pointed out, there's a lot of opportunity coming in the securities market. So at New Alchemy, we're building out different options there. We're looking at our in-house disciplines. We've actually got a new division that will be rolling out shortly, focused on this piece of the business. And then, last but not least, be careful to scrub your existing materials to ensure they're safe. Particularly, one of the things that we've looked at and seen potential danger in are things in your white paper like token mechanics. Because token mechanics often talk about the value of your product. They imply future appreciation in many ways. So it's a great exercise for your lawyer to look at these and say, hey, is this really safe? Can you put that out there? We've had our lawyer look at a number of things to do that. And if in doubt, just leave it out. You can always talk to people one-on-one about things. Just don't put anything in public that you don't want out there. Okay, great. So give us an idea of what you provide for clients, because I don't like presentations that are vague and don't have specific examples. And so I'll talk about a couple of different things that we at New Alchemy do. This is just a part of the services we offer and part of the approach that we take for clients. But the first, when we bring a client in, we feel that it's important to get them ready for acceptance by our current broker-dealer partner, because they are a partner, they're not part of New Alchemy. So we work with our clients. Many of them do have venture capital or fundraising experience, but many don't. I mean, there's a lot of great projects out there that a couple guys in the garage came up with something awesome. They want to get it out there and invest. So we do have many clients who are experiencing that particular process for the first time. Through our partnership, we are able to offer unique insight into what broker-dealers are looking for. We've done this now quite a bit over the past 6 months, and so we know what makes a project pass and what doesn't. Some of the things are, hey, do you have an actual revenue model? Because as it turns out, investors in this world are very interested in making money. Imagine that. Then after acceptance, we serve as our broker-dealer's marketing resource. Essentially, we're their agency. We produce all the materials that eventually go out under the broker-dealer's name. That's the trick. I can't send it out, but I can send it to the broker-dealer. They can review it, slap their logo on it, and send it out. So we do that, including things like various collateral material. There's some collateral here for some of our clients, similar to things we do. Email campaigns, paid ad campaigns, now back on Facebook at some point. Website support, and a variety of other things. One of the other things we do, so I'm talking about probably about 4 specific examples of things we do with clients in this in this world. We ensure that you have a minimum viable brand. So before going in front of the broker-dealer and investors, let alone the world at large, we feel like you need to have some form of minimum brand put together. And again, a lot of our clients do have a brand, but some don't that come in. And so we help clients create a story that will resonate with the broker-dealer and with the public at large. We do also help them create an identity kit they can use so they have continuity across all their other collateral websites and things like that. What constitutes a minimum viable brand? Well, a fully vetted name. We will help come up with names for your company if you like. We do recommend that you get a copyright lawyer to do the background work on that, make sure it's okay. We will develop logo, mark, and color palette guidelines, your style, your voice, and a full brand and style guide, among other things. One of the other things we help our clients come up with is a pitch deck. There's actually a couple of different iterations of this, but the broker-dealer specific pitch deck is what we put together and work with our clients on to get them approved by the broker-dealer, get them to agree to take the client on as an investor. And so once they're done, we revise and customize that for later use by the broker-dealer as their bankers go out and market the project directly, and for our clients, because our clients do still have a role in this process. We don't just hand it off to the broker-dealer and say, okay, go and come back to us when you have $50 million. Our clients are actively engaged in talking with potential investors, and we prep them for that. We prep them for that through a process that we call Thunderdome. We basically want to prepare our clients for their initial presentation to the broker-dealer and ultimately to the investor community at large. This is equal parts speaker presenter training and Q&A preparation. We get a team of our people together, our strategic advisors, our marketing advisors, some of our engineering team, people from our research team, and we have you present your project to us. We offer you constructive criticism. We have you present it to us again. We offer yet more constructive criticism. We pepper you with questions of the types that we've seen asked. And again, since we've been doing this now for the grand old amount of time of 6 months or so, which is a long time in this industry, we hopefully have a pretty good idea of some of the recurring questions that are coming up, and we will help you prepare for them. And we feel like formal critique is pretty crucial to our client success. The clients that we've done this with generally feel better about their whole experience. And then lastly, a splash page. We believe everyone needs to at least have a website, so if a potential investor goes out there, this is like Captain Obvious stuff. Someone goes out there and puts in yourproject.io and there's nothing, they're probably not going to go much farther. So we do help develop a basic splash page for use by our clients. Some of the basic things you would expect. Nothing too unusual compared to what we've seen marketing axioms in general. And then we do offer obviously a bunch of other services depending on what the client needs. Prepping your executive summary, doing your technical white papers, printing collateral, swag and giveaways, blog, content creation, community engagement, roadshow prep. I want to thank Beacon for putting together a great series of events. Thank some of my team for being here and kind of kicking butt on getting our part of this ready as well. And so that's kind of it for us. I think next we're going to have one of our clients, client analysts, come up their ICO and cryptocurrency research platform. Tobias is here to kill it and do a much better job than I can with this. So thank you.